Some women physically tense up the moment another woman says something kind to them. Not because they're ungrateful, not because they don't want to believe it, because attention never felt emotionally safe. And if you've ever smiled at a compliment and felt nothing land on the inside, this video is going to explain something you've probably carried your entire life without ever having a name for it. Someone looks at you and says, "You look beautiful today." And before the words even finish, something in your body closes. Not warmth, something closer to suspicion. Does she really mean it? What is she trying to do? Why would she say that to me? You smile. You say thank you. You change the subject. And the compliment disappears. Because you made it disappear. Because letting it stay felt like standing in a light you weren't ready for. Hi. Welcome back to The Healing Is in You. My name is Lana. I'm just a woman trying to understand how certain childhood experiences continue showing up, silently, in adult life. And one of the hardest things I ever had to recognize about myself was that I didn't know how to receive, not love, not kindness, not even a simple compliment from someone who genuinely meant it. We'll come back to why, because that part is going to change the way you see yourself. Let me describe something specific, and I want you to notice. If your body recognizes any of this, you post a photo, you actually liked how you looked, you felt good about it, so you posted it. And then, almost immediately, something shifts. You start watching. The likes, the comments, who responded, who didn't. And a quiet voice starts in the back of your mind. Maybe I shouldn't have posted that. So you delete it. Not because anything went wrong, because the visibility itself felt like too much. Or maybe it's this. You're at work. A colleague says, "That presentation was really impressive." And without pausing, without even thinking, you say, "Oh, it wasn't that good. I actually think I could have done better." Automatic. Instant. The deflection happened before you even decided to deflect. Or a friend sends you flowers, just because she was thinking of you. And instead of feeling warm, your chest tightens slightly. Why is she doing this? What does she want? This feels like too much. And then there are the group situations. A woman across the table gets complimented. "You look amazing tonight." And she smiles, says thank you, and moves on. Completely unbothered. And you watch her, and something aches. Not jealousy, something quieter than that. The feeling of watching someone do something effortlessly that you don't know how to do at all. The compliment didn't feel warm, it felt exposing. And maybe the strangest part? Most women spend their entire lives believing this has something to do with confidence. It doesn't. Here's what happens inside your body. In the exact moment someone says something kind, they say it. And before your mind processes the words, your body moves first. Shoulders pull in, just slightly. Something in your stomach shifts. Your face arranges itself into a smile that doesn't reach your eyes. And underneath that smile, a thought you'd never say out loud. If she really knew me, she wouldn't say that. What if she only said it because she feels bad for me? You didn't feel seen. You felt observed. And there's a difference. Being seen feels like warmth. Being observed feels like exposure. Like a light was pointed at something you weren't ready to have noticed. The compliment didn't feel warm. It felt exposing. So you deflect. You minimize. You laugh without meaning it. You redirect the attention. anywhere that isn't you. And it works. The light moves. You're safe again. But here's the part most women never realize. That reaction, the tightening, the suspicion, the automatic redirect, it didn't start in adulthood. It started somewhere much earlier, in a place where being truly noticed was never something that ended in warmth, where compliments either didn't come or came with something attached to them, conditions, expectations. A subtle pressure you didn't know how to carry. And this also explains something else, something we're going to get to. But first, let's go back to where this actually began. Think about growing up, and try to remember the last time someone told you that you were enough. Not because you performed, not because you earned it, just enough, as you were. Maybe nobody did. Maybe what you received instead was correction, comparison. A mother who saw everything that needed to be fixed, and very little that was already good. A child in that environment doesn't think, "My mother struggles to express warmth." She thinks, "There must be something wrong with me." That's the wound. Quiet, invisible from the outside. Built slowly, over years, from an absence, not always from cruelty. Sometimes just from silence where warmth should have been. And then comes adolescence, where the world outside becomes another mirror. Maybe you were mocked for how you looked, excluded from groups where you wanted to belong. Maybe someone laughed at something about you, in front of other people, and you felt that specific kind of hurt that lives in the body for years. The hurt of being noticed and wishing you hadn't been. Being unseen felt lonely, but being seen felt dangerous. So your body learned. Invisibility feels safer than disappointment. Some women don't reject compliments. They reject visibility. And that is where everything changes. Because once you understand that, once you really feel that, the way you've moved through the world your entire life starts to make a different kind of sense. And here's where it shows up. In your adult life. Quietly, invisibly, in ways you probably never connected to any of this. You're at a dinner with a group of women. Someone gets complimented. Her dress, her hair, her promotion. And she receives it easily. Laughs warmly. Says thank you like it was the most natural thing in the world. And you watch her. And something in you goes very still. Not because you dislike her, but because she has access to something that has always felt just out of reach for you. Some basic ease, with being seen, with being acknowledged, with taking up space without apologizing for it. You've worked just as hard, shown up just as consistently, cared just as deeply. But when someone recognizes it, something in you resists. Like they got it wrong. Like if they knew the full picture, they'd feel differently. And maybe, if you're honest, you felt more comfortable in relationships where you weren't fully seen, where you were taken for granted, a little overlooked, quietly invisible. And as painful as that was, it was familiar. Being truly seen felt like waiting for the moment it would be used against you. Because in your experience, visibility came with consequences. And the most painful thought of all, the one that lives underneath everything, is this. What if they see the real me, and I lose them? So you learned to survive invisibility, because invisibility, at least, was something you knew how to manage. And this affects love more than most women realize. I want to pause here for a moment, because if you've made it this far, something in this video is landing. And I want you to sit with what you're feeling right now. Because what you're feeling isn't weakness, it's recognition. Nobody noticed this pain, because from the outside, you just looked humble, grounded, private. Not someone who needed a lot of validation. Nobody saw that underneath the humility. There was a woman who had simply stopped expecting warmth, not because she didn't want it, but because wanting it and not receiving it had hurt too many times. And there's something specific that happens when a woman, especially a woman who has carried this quietly for decades, finally understands why she reacts the way she does. It's not relief exactly. It's more like something exhales. A lifetime of moments that felt confusing suddenly have a shape. The deflecting, the minimizing, the watching other women receive with ease, and feeling that quiet ache you never knew how to explain. It wasn't a flaw. It was a response to something real. And maybe for the first time in your life, you're realizing this was never your personality. A lifetime of moments that felt confusing suddenly have a shape. The deflecting, the minimizing, the watching other women receive with ease, and feeling that quiet ache you never knew how to explain. It wasn't a flaw. It was a response to something real. And maybe for the first time in your life, you're realizing this was never your personality. If this is landing, leave it in the comments. Just let me know you're here, that this found you. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this space was made for you. Subscribe and stay. There's so much more here that I think you need to hear. Here's what I want you to understand. The part of you that deflects, that minimizes, that quietly, automatically, doesn't believe kind words, even when they're true, even when they're said by people who have every reason to mean them. That part of you isn't broken. It was protecting you from the only kind of attention it ever learned to expect. Some women spend decades trying to become more confident, when the real wound was never confidence, it was safety. And the grief of understanding that, when it finally arrives, is real. Not dramatic, not loud, just quiet, heavy. The grief of realizing that something you needed, something every child needs, was simply not given to you, consistently, freely, without conditions. The grief of the girl who waited, without knowing she was waiting, for someone to look at her and mean it. To say, "You are beautiful. You are enough." Not because of what you do, just because of who you are. The grief of the girl who stopped waiting, because waiting hurt too much. The grief of the woman who learned to give warmth to everyone around her, and never learned to let it come back in. You were never unwanted. You were never too much. You were never the problem. You were just in a place that didn't know how to show you that. And that doesn't make it hurt less. But it does mean it was never about you. I want to end this quietly, because I think you've been carrying this quietly for a very long time. The not believing, the deflecting, the watching other women receive so easily and feeling something ache inside you, without ever fully understanding where that ache was coming from. Maybe now, something is a little clearer. Maybe the next time someone tells you something kind, and that old familiar closing happens in your chest, you'll pause, just for a second. And instead of immediately sending the attention somewhere else, you'll recognize it. Not judge it. Not force yourself to feel differently. Just name it. This is an old response. From an old place. Doing what it always did. Trying to protect me from something that isn't happening anymore. Because that's all it is. An old belief, running on a very old program. In a life that has already changed. You are allowed to be seen. You are allowed to be told you are beautiful, and to let yourself believe it. You are allowed to receive love, without waiting for the part where it gets taken away. Not all at once. Not perfectly. Just a little more than yesterday. And slowly, in your own time, in your own way, you'll begin to receive what was always meant for you. I post new videos here every week about emotions like this one. The ones that live quietly inside you for years, without ever having a name. If this felt like something you needed, stay, and go watch the next video. There's something there I think you'll recognize too. This space exists because of women like you. The healing is in you. It always has been.